Internet, how are we doing today? Truly, 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 how are we doing today? Always want you to take you time when you come and listen to my words and my episodes. So I hope you just sit with yourself before we have a talk. Yeah, always. Um, you know, I think when I started I remember my first video that I posted, I was really motivated because I saw a podcast and they were like, just do it. Just do it. And I think when somebody is creating their creative endeavor, that has their ebbs and flows. And right now for me, I'm realizing that I really use this space to release what I'm going through. And I want to share that with the world because I think, everybody's like, I want to share my story to help you because you can relate. And, I don't think that's necessarily always true. And I think in my work and with my words and with what I'm building here on YouTube and just creating these conversations, I think what I really want to exemplify is just the power of vulnerability. People are going to perceive your story and your work to where they're at. It's never really about the other person. And I'm realizing that and learning that in my mid or 20s in a way that I've never really absorbed that before. And I say that because I think when you're in your younger 20s and you're dealing with perception and your own insecurities are coming out, I think you don't really realize how that affects you until it does. And I think that happens through our relationships, through the way we emotionally respond to things over time and realizing those patterns within ourselves. And so for me, going back to my creative journey and what this means for me, I'm realizing that this is totally an outlet for me. Among talking about our social emotional experience and how that relates to the world, us as people, how we function, how we socialize, or even the other way around, how the world and those norms and stereotypes and normalized parts that affect us and grow the society in the way that they do. I think I'm also going to be vulnerable and talk about my own personal experience because that's how I can talk about these layers of life and these layers of existence and the way that we communicate as people. And I think I just say that because I think somebody's personal truth and experience really holds the same weight as something that's true, or these certain structures and educational learnings. I think sometimes, vulnerability can be intimidating. And I think sometimes it's I'm talking about my feelings, so there isn't structure and there isn't, a certain way to do that. But I'm realizing that experience is really just so powerful. And for so long, I think I was really holding myself back because I felt like experience wasn't formal enough, or, again, not everybody does have the same experience. I'm going to be talking from a perspective of what I have experienced, right? And that isn't going to be relatable to everybody. And I think sometimes talking about personal experience and being aware of that, I think sometimes has held me back as well, because I never want to, I just don't want to offend anybody. And maybe that's something I need to get over, and I am getting over it because that's why I'm making this video, to just let my audience know. And I think myself know that talking about what's going on in my life is as important as a curriculum or a for certain framework or mindset to look at the world, and like two things can coexist and they don't cancel out each other. Because I think that in today's age, we're all learning how to talk into a video. We're all learning how to talk into a camera. And so, what does that mean to the way that we socialize and the way that we think? And how do I protect myself? And so I think I've been really thinking about that. And also, needing a release in my life. Some of my friends have mentioned to me things that I've said in videos, and that's related to them or not. And I think I'm just realizing like that's going to be a part of my work. Like that's going to be a part of what I'm doing, because I am going to talk about my personal experience. I am going to talk about what I'm going through. And of course I want to respect people's privacy, but at the end of the day, it's my truth as much as yours. And, I think that kind of brings me to the topic today of just like thinking about kind of what I was saying earlier. Like, you don't really realize the layers of perception until you go through it. And I think one of those layers is conflict. You don't know how somebody else is going to receive something that you're bringing up, or people really deal with conflict in different ways, and that does affect a relationship. And I had a personal experience like that recently, and so, and even in general, having that light bulb in itself has given me so many other light bulbs to other relationships. And I realized that I have experienced being on both sides of that. Some of my friends have told me that they feel unsupported, and I've advocated to other friends that I feel unsupported, but yet I find myself in both seats and on both ends of the sticks of unsupported or not supporting enough, or not supporting in the way that's needed. And even in that way, I'm realizing that we really are absorbed to deal with conflict differently. And even this line that I kind of talked about a little bit in my last video of like, your way of showing isn't going to be the way somebody receives what they need. And I've just been sitting with myself of like, what are my boundaries? Like, what does that look like? Growing up, I have, in my workspace, I'm very lucky to have people who really care. And I have great conversations with these folks. And I was talking to somebody about this transition into adulthood and building relationships in your adulthood rather than in your adolescence or even your young adults, and what that shift looks like. And it's been difficult. And I don't want to have an all or nothing perspective. And I've also been told by people close to me that sometimes I do that, and I know I do that, and I really appreciate them saying that to me, because I also truly believe like two things can be true at the same time. Like, even in the essence of the way that conflict ripples, like I'm trying to be unalarming as possible, but at the end of the day, somebody is gonna receive it the way where they're at, and I can't control that. I can control my emotions, but I can't control the way somebody's gonna receive what I'm saying. And yeah, kind of a tough pill to swallow, not gonna lie. And I think you can meet somebody, like I said, as unalarmed and as empathetic as possible, but it's still just like not gonna come across. And I guess that's okay, like, I'm making this video because it's obviously bothering me. And that's okay too, like, friendships are ebbs and flows. They're a give and a take. It's a dance. It's a tango, And I believe that time heals everything, There are some things that may take more times than others, may take lifetimes. Definitely have a couple of those experiences for sure. But at the end of the day, I think this is just like, I want to document this because this feels like a very real growing. I mean, of course, this is painful, but also this is like just, I really feel like this is a story of growing up. And I think, even, I mean, I'm 24. Yes, I'm 24. Who would have thought? I know I say that to people and people are so surprised. So if you're like, talking to you. But yeah, I'm 24. And even like 2 years ago, like, I don't think I was in a space where I could really understand what I'm talking about. And now that I'm in this space, I realize, like, people say in your early 20s, like, you get that glimmer and that first part of independence and you're like, I know everything. And experiences like this make you realize, like, oh wow, I don't. Like, I don't. I didn't. Whatever. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. So, yeah, I just wanted to share that because I think sometimes you don't really feel it. But at the end of the day, I think it's important to recognize that these parts that I'm experiencing right now are lifelong. These are going to happen into your 60s, your 80s, your 90s, your hundreds if you get there. And that's what I just wanted to like remind us, these are very powerful parts of life and the experience that I'm talking about where I feel like can have such an impact. And my vulnerability of talking about it and having the curiosity and having the want to be curious, I think is just super important. And, always question, even if it's uncomfortable. And yeah, that's my talk today. But so much love. And I hope this resonated. I hope this made sense. I'm excited that we're on this journey together. Thank you for coming and hanging out and listening to me today. And you got this. So much love. Heart forever.